any generation, any people who go through this phase, this kind of a difficult learning phase, are likely to emerge much stronger. Within 2-3 months, we should probably, hopefully, see a resumption of classes within the campus. SPJMR and hopefully most premier B schools will not compromise on the quality of intake, because that's our promise to the industry, and there's a certain level of competence which our students stand for. Should you get into an MBA school when the markets are down and graduate when the markets are on the recovery, or you should leave your jobs and get back to education when the business cycle is peaking outside? By delaying the decision by a year or two, your trajectory will largely remain the same, but you're cutting off the last 2 years of your career, which you would get to spend at the top.
2020 has been a rough year for full-time education. OneYearMBA.co.in's Learning Unlock series aims to connect with the top B schools across the world to discover how they are responding to the challenge, their plans for reopening campuses, and how full-time education will look in a post-COVID world. I'm joined today by Nilendra Singh Pawar, chairperson of the one-year full-time PGPM program at SPJMR Mumbai. Hello, Mr. Pawar. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hello, good to be with you.
Thank you so much. Nilendra, it's been a tumultuous year for education. What are the key challenges SPJMR has faced this year?
Yeah, I think this has been a rather difficult year because we have had this once in a century kind of a black swan event. And like most other organizations, we are also learning how to cope with it. We have transitioned to teaching online. In fact, in March itself, within a week of lockdown, we shifted to teaching online completely. We are probably the first B school to do that. And there were teething troubles how to teach online. We had to modify course outlines, certain cases, certain course contents. But I think we learned it quite a bit, and to an extent we have grown as individuals, as faculty, and also I'm sure as students, because the technology is amazing. And today, actually, we were able to do almost everything, including group work, case discussions, etc., in an online environment. So overall, it's been a learning experience. And besides this part, and personally, this is my personal belief that any generation, any people who go through this phase, this kind of a difficult learning phase, are likely to emerge much stronger because of sheer mental resilience which this experience builds into you. So that's as far as this year goes. In terms of long-term impact on learning, I think the possibilities which exist in online education and distant classes, I think they will become more apparent to us. So I'm sure it will open up new possibilities, newer way of doing things, newer way of accessing faculty and students across the countries. So I think it's given that digitalization part a strong fillip.
All right. So online is going to be an emerging opportunity, as you said, but what is the response for the full-time programs this year? Like, I would like your view specifically on the one-year PGPM, but also on the two-year program. What is the student interest? Do you think it's waning this year, or is it consistent with the past years?
So in terms of response, see, all our activities have moved online, and I would say rather successfully. We've just finished with our tour MBA internship placements, and they again, like every year, they finished off much before the planned period for that exercise. Our admissions, all the interviews and everything we have conducted online. So I think people have transitioned well. I don't think there's any concern from the learning or the program administration point of view. But of course, the overall situation of economy might impact the way certain people look at these career decisions. Besides, and of course, the placement opportunity. But in terms of impact on administration and conducting a program, I don't think there's been a significantly, a significant, let's say, disturbance which has impacted our abilities to provide quality education.
So the capability remains the same. You're saying the student sentiment is impacted somewhat, When do you see the recovery for full-time programs happening? Them getting back on track completely.
I think in terms of program conducting the program in the classrooms, I think my guess is as good as yours, and probably I think already PhD students are in the recent Unlock 4.0 or something. The PhD students have been allowed to come back to the campuses, and I think within 2-3 months we should probably, hopefully, see a resumption of classes within the campus. Of course, there would be restrictions, probably not allowing congregation of more than certain number of students together. So we'll have to look at innovative things like keeping certain restricting number of students in the class, or having students in two class and having them be connected digitally, or allowing certain participants to teach or learn from home, or allowing faculty to certain faculty to teach from home. So we would have to modify the way classes are conducted a little bit, and I think within 2-3 months we should start seeing progress on that direction.
So specifically when it comes to Mumbai, I think it's one of the worst affected cities along with Delhi. Has it, impacted SPJMR more adversely vis-a-vis other colleges, or are you keeping pace with the unlocking of things now?
I think in the initial period, lockdown, we were probably hit earlier in terms of a complete shutdown in Mumbai compared to other B schools. In terms of unlocking, I think we are all following the center guidelines now. And as of now, schools and colleges are supposed to be kept shut. And there are some relaxations for, as I mentioned, PhD students and those students who require the use of labs and workshops, typical engineering students. There are some relaxations for them. These will last till probably September end. Hopefully, in the coming set of guidelines, we would see. We expect to see more relaxations for higher education as well.
All right, Nilendra. So classes have shifted online, but the full-time program by definition is an in-person experience. Is online learning able to come close in any way to what a full-time classroom looks like?
Okay. Just an input there. A full-time program means you are a full-time student and you're not doing it along with your work. Now, so that's the broad definition. So our students do not go back to jobs anyway. They continue to learn, but because of these constraints, they are at least the current batch is doing at least half of their learning from home. I think in terms of capability of teaching and learning, there's not significant impact. And I'll tell you where it makes a difference. For students with very strong motivation for learning, I think the online medium, like the way I'm talking to you, and if I have to share a spreadsheet or use a digital tab to do some board work, I'll be able to explain things to you. But where people miss out is if the students requires a faculty to monitor. So if there are 75 students sitting in a class of 60 students, I can make eye contact with each one of them. And if I feel that one of them is losing interest, I can go and talk to that person or do some cold calling and have a deeper interaction. I think somewhere if anybody who wants to excel in online learning has to be very intrinsically motivated. Because the ability of the faculty to ensure that you're participating and learning reduces substantially. So in terms of learning also, I mean, in every class is a mix of students and which are good students and not so good students. I expect because of online learning, the curve to become wider. I think the gap to become larger. So that's one constraint. Second thing is students also miss being with each other. I think the entire campus experience of living in a hostel and doing assignments, sitting together, exchange or interaction which happens between classes or in the evenings, I think that's the biggest loss which we are not able to make up for. So I think classroom experience probably not so much we are able to replicate, but the entire outside class experience, interactions and working together, which is possible in a physical campus, I think that is the biggest hit which online education faces.
So when I was studying, I mean, classroom participation used to be marked, all right? And of course, that's completely out of the window now. So What are you doing with interpersonal relationships, interpersonal skills that people are supposed to pick up in an MBA? I know you already said that it's going to be a tough thing. You can't replicate a classroom environment, but interpersonal skills, picking up from your peers. So I know the instructor is talking to the students. How are the
Yeah.
students talking to each other? How is that happening now?
Right. So we continue to give out group assignments, group work as normal, and students try and do that in within breakout rooms on Zoom. We conduct classes online, or later on they join in, using probably let's say Google Hangouts and try and do work together. I mean, that's the extent to which we can make up for it. But it's no, replacement for a full-time conversation or engagement. The second problem which students face with online is a lot of screen time. So, I mean, they have to do the entire readings on the computer, assignments on the PC, the classes on the PC, as well as group interaction on the PC. So, to that extent, we have reduced the workload per day as well. As against 5-6 classes, we are doing about 3 classes a day, just to keep the. And because of that, the program has got a bit extended. But because of, I think it will keep the screen time to what is manageable. I think BIFTL, and there are some informal action in interactions which keep getting organized, largely student-led. Besides that, I think there's very little you can do to enable physical interaction without compromising the safety.
Fair enough. Tell me one thing. A lot of students, our readers, our audience have been asking, is it a good time to do an MBA? And some are seeing a silver lining to the entire thing. They're saying, maybe the competition this year is going to be lesser. So what is your view on that? Is that true for certain B schools? What's the scenario at SPJIMR? There is a compromise between quality and filling the class. So what's the approach B schools are taking in general, and what's the take at SPJIMR?
A very interesting question, Shikhar. Actually, a lot of students call us up and talk about the same thing. So first, I'll finish the easier part, which is from the institute sides. I think SPJIMR and hopefully most premier B schools will not compromise on the quality of intake, because that's our promise to the industry, and there's a certain level of competence which our students stand for. So if there are fewer applicants, you'll probably reduce the number of the batch size, but you would not compromise on the quality of students. Our applications are closing this morning, so we're yet to see the numbers, but I don't see a significant reduction compared to last year. Let's see. I'm yet to look at those final numbers. Now, coming from the student's point of view, is it a good time to do an MBA? I think there sometimes, and in my personal view, young students tend to have a bit of fallacious view on this. See, doing an MBA at this point is a life decision. Okay, people who enter B schools now would be finishing or reaching the peak of their career, or winding up their careers in 2045, 2050. So it's a good 25-30 years ahead. It doesn't make sense to time start of your journey based on these events. It's a life decision. Once you decide to pursue a certain path, it's like investment. You don't time it. You go and get that qualification, start off, on your new career trajectory. And just to give you an example, let's say a person starts an MBA now and probably retires or in 2046 or 2048 as a head of a large organization. By delaying the decision by a year or two, your trajectory will largely remain the same, but you're cutting off the last 2 years of your career, which you would get to spend at the top. So the price of these, delaying these decisions is higher than what we presume it is. So I think we should take these decisions from a longer perspective, life perspective, and probably not allow a year or two of disturbance, or market is good or market is bad, to determine. I mean, these are much larger decisions in my view. Second part is, even if you are trying to time it, first of all, I believe that decision is completely wrong. Would you be should you get into an MBA school when the markets are down and graduate when the markets are on the recovery, or you should leave your jobs and get back to education when the business cycle is peaking outside? So it can be argued both ways. Personally, I feel you shouldn't time it at all. These are much larger decisions than year to year, or even for even in the economic cycle, there will be recessions, there will be booms, and you'll see many of them going ahead. But these are much larger decisions for one's life.
So what you're saying is that given the fact that the job market is not looking very positive at the moment, this could be in fact a great time to study an MBA and then come out stronger when the market recovers.
Yeah, and so let's look at this year's batch. When this year's batch is going to pass out, the markets are not going to be terrific. Okay, we know that we would be facing some concerns here, but then if at all they have to, let's say, a compromise on their first job, markets will recover. Wait for one more year, and then either they'll get a better reputation in their current organization, or then they'll move on to better jobs. Rather than waiting for a year or two, and when market is recovering, then getting into acquiring qualifications. I think it doesn't make sense. My request is, and I have been through similar cycle. I have been acquired a management degree, work. I think these are much larger decisions which should be made with a life perspective and not on a year-to-year perspective.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Now, when it comes to MBA abroad in the US and the UK and a couple of other countries, a lot of the universities have waived off GMAT. Obviously, CAT doesn't apply abroad. What is the scenario in India? Are students coming to you with a request for waiving off scores, and what is your view on it?
Yeah, so I think there's been some development on this in the last couple of weeks. As per the AICTE guidelines, we are supposed to conduct use some standardized tests as an entrance criteria. So let's say when we are using CAT or GMAT, that applies commonly for all the students who enter the course, irrespective of which board or what education they're coming from. Now, AICTE has relaxed that requirement, I think about 10-12 days ago for this year, but with a caveat that an institute is supposed to consider all the students who have given that test, let's say CAT or let's say GMAT. The institute is supposed to consider all the students and offer the seats to them first, provided they meet their institute's pre-stated minimum cutoff. The seat should be offered to them first, and leftover seats can be offered to students or applicants who have not really given those exams. I don't think we would be ever in a situation where we don't have enough GMAT applicants who have taken GMAT. So SPJMR is not really waiving off that requirement. We would stick to having a GMAT or a CAT score. And I think GMAT has been made available online. You can take it from your home. And the basic hallmark of a manager is to be able to manage in uncertain times. So I think nothing has changed. You should be able to prepare, and there's a lot of good help available. Get that help, write the exams. I don't see why there should be a waiver.
So, all right. So that's positive to hear that there's plenty of student interest from people who have GMAT and CAT in this market. That is great to hear. I also want to understand that, now that we are moving hopefully in a positive direction, that things are going to be unlocking soon for business schools. What is going to be different once these schools reopen? How do you see the campus emerging now? So, for instance, some of the aspects I'd like to know about are, will classrooms look different? Will hostels be functional? Will international immersions and industry visits still happen? What is your prediction for what's coming next?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work happening on this. We have a specific committee which is formed to address how the campus infrastructure, both from the living as well as teaching point of view, how will that function? And there are changes being made to provide safe working and living environment to all the students. And this would mean maintaining social distancing and safe living in the hostels, the common areas, the canteens, and library and other places, as well as in the classes. We might see restrictions and a certain distance, seating distance within the classrooms, which might mean we might have to split students into 2 classrooms or use the larger halls or classrooms to a higher degree. So there is a committee working for it, looking at infrastructure and figuring out how this will change. There will also be rules related to how often can students go out in the city and come back. There would definitely be some restrictions on free travel because we live in a community and we have to protect care of the community at large. So those things will come in, and I'm sure other states also working on it. So there would be, I would say, minor changes which would make our living and working safe. But I don't expect that to alter the on-campus living and learning experience to a significant extent. I think we just need to be more safe and continue in that way for probably a few more months.
And what about industry visits? Do you think that's going to come back on track? And specifically the international immersion with travel getting restricted, what's your view on coming back on track there?
So the international immersion for the coming batch is planned between July 2021 to August 2021. And we are still a long distance away, about 10 months or so from that place. And I hope by that time, and all our students go to the top business schools in the US. So I hope by then those B schools would have recovered. It's still 10 months to go. So I'm pretty hopeful that things will work out. In terms of industry visits, we have just finished our autumn internship placements for the 2-year program. And I think all of them have got placed and in the same, I mean, the usual suspects, the pretty good suite of companies. I'm not sure whether how many of them would be happening online for the current batch, and how many of them, how many of those students will be able to visit the factories and offices and do their work. And that will pan out in the coming 3-4 months. But for the batch which is yet to join, the current applicant batch, I think we should be in a good place. We are still, as I said earlier, probably a year away from those industry visits and those internships and those international immersions. So I'm hopeful things will work out well. But the batch which is in the program right now has certainly had to face a compromise, both in terms of let's say in-campus experience and industry visits, and probably will also look at the placement point of view also would probably start the worst affected for the batch which is in the campus, and not so much for the coming batches.
All right. So this is not the first time you talked about the business cycles and ups and downs keep coming. I remember similar. The last time this happened was 2009, 2010 when we nosedived. But there are always jobs which are secure. There are always sectors which are secure. So which are the jobs which are still going strong in this cycle of recruitment at the campus despite the pandemic?
So I would look at it two ways. I think there are some sectors which are going strong. So the sectors which are, let's start other way around, which are worst hit are sectors which depend on discretionary spend. So basically, automobile sector, which can be postponed. Automobile, construction, paints, these sectors are likely to get hit far worse because of the consumer sentiment being down and spending being low. But the sectors which provide the basic necessities like food, personal products, I think though there the inventories have come down significantly, but the manufacturing is coming back on track, and I think they would be reasonably well in place in terms of recovery. So certain sectors are doing well. Even in terms of industry, I think the e-commerce organizations, I think they've had an opportunity to kind of test their business models under very high demand. And again, I hope that their placements as well as their businesses show good results, and they should be back for recruitments. Having said that, I would again go back to my earlier point that the reason I should choose a particular career path or job is a life decision. So probably which sectors are doing well right now should play a limited role in your deciding what you want to pursue. And if you're passionate about certain field or certain things, I think you should pursue that, because you'll be happier in that line of work or that career over the next 25, 30 years, rather than making more experienced decisions which is based only on current situation. But this situation will change. I think it's just probably a year away.
All right. So I think that would give a student a good overview of what to expect this year and in the coming years. What's your advice for somebody who's still on the fence after seeing this video? What would you tell him to make a leap?
See, these are very big decisions, taking a break or getting a management degree. So I can only advise them from look at things from a very long perspective. Okay, figure out if getting a business education and altering your career trajectory to a managerial path makes sense or not. And if you think that makes sense, then probably you should just go ahead and execute your decision. There's no point of hanging around. Because always remember, if you're delaying these decisions by a year or two, you're knocking off the last 1 or 2 years, because your trajectory will be the same. You'll just start a year or two later. So you're knocking off the last couple of years of, you would have to be in a position where you can make significant contribution to the industry and to the country. So I suggest you, if you want to start off, get started off immediately. It doesn't make sense to delay it or wonder based on the current situation. There'll be ups and downs. This is not the last, let's say, recessions or down period which you're seeing they'll see in their lives. In their 20 or 30 years of career, they'll probably encounter 2 or 3 such dips in the economy. It shouldn't really affect their decisions. So my request is only this: use a life perspective to decide what is right for you. And if you think it makes sense, then go for it immediately. If not, of course, you shouldn't even consider it even in the best of the times.
That was an interesting point that you're actually, I think towards the latter part, the last 2 years, you're going to be cutting down on the most highest earning years of your life, all right, by delaying the decision at the moment. So I think that's an interesting perspective for somebody to look at. When they're going to be CEO, they're going to be taking 2 years off that particular period of their lives. Great. Thanks, Nilendra. That has been very helpful. I'm very hopeful that things should be back on track now soon. And I'm sure our conversation has been of help to a lot of students. Thanks again for joining us, and I hope to be in touch again with you soon. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.